It was a quiet Sunday morning, the kind that used to bring me peace. The smell of coffee, the hum of the ceiling fan, the soft rustle of the newspaper. For years, this house echoed with laughter and family chatter. But now, every sound felt borrowed. My name is Robert Hayes, 58 years old, retired construction supervisor. I built this house with my own hands, brick by brick, nail by nail, and I thought I'd die here, surrounded by family. My wife, Ellen, passed away 5 years ago. My son, Daniel, was my only reason to keep going. He was my pride, ambitious, polite, the kind of man I believed would carry my name with honor. Then came her. Her name was Vanessa Carter, Daniel's new wife. She walked into my house like she owned it, all perfume, smiles, and thinly veiled arrogance. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes measured people like investments. "Mr. Hayes," she said the first day she arrived, "your home is lovely. So, vintage." She smiled, but it wasn't admiration. It was evaluation. Daniel, blind with love, couldn't see it. "Dad, Vanessa wants to help modernize the house. Maybe redo the kitchen, change the curtains, make it more us." "Us?" I repeated. "I thought it was my home." Daniel just laughed, but Vanessa's hand gripped his arm, a subtle, silent reminder of who was really in control. For weeks, she shifted things around, furniture, routines, even Daniel. Slowly, the house started to reflect her personality, not mine. My wife's photos disappeared from the living room. The china cabinet Ellen loved was suddenly too old-fashioned. And one morning, I overheard something that cut deeper than any insult. "Honestly, Daniel," Vanessa said, her voice sharp, "your father should stay out of our space. I feel like I'm living with the help." The help. That word echoed. I froze in the hallway, coffee trembling in my hand. She called me the maid. In my own house. When Daniel didn't defend me, something inside me cracked. I didn't say a word. I just turned, went back to my room, and started thinking. Thinking about everything I had given, everything they were taking, and what I could still take back. If you were in my place, what would you have done when your son's wife called you the maid? Tell me in the comments. That night, I quietly took out Ellen's old lockbox. Inside it were house deeds, insurance papers, and one thing Vanessa didn't know existed, a secret clause. A clause that meant this house wasn't legally Daniel's yet, and never would be without my signature. As I looked at the papers, I heard soft footsteps approach my door, and Vanessa's voice whisper, "He won't be a problem much longer." The next morning, I acted as if nothing had happened. I made breakfast, poured coffee, and smiled at Vanessa like I didn't hear her last night. She smiled back, that same rehearsed grin, and said, "Oh, Robert, could you make sure the guest room is clean today? Daniel's colleagues might come by." The guest room, my room, once Ellen's sanctuary. I nodded. "Of course, Mrs. Hayes." The look on her face, that flicker of victory, was priceless. She thought she'd won. But I had already started digging. Daniel's best friend, Mark Ellison, still worked at the firm where my son did. I invited him for coffee one afternoon, pretending I wanted to talk about Daniel's promotion. But Mark looked uneasy. "Robert, I probably shouldn't say this, but Daniel's been under pressure. Vanessa's been spending like crazy. The new car, the designer stuff, that vacation to Napa, they're all on credit." My chest tightened. "Debt?" Mark nodded. "Yeah, big one. She pushed him into refinancing the mortgage under her name." Under her name. That night, I waited until they went out. I opened Daniel's study drawer, and there it was. A new mortgage contract, half-filled, waiting for my co-signature as co-owner. Without it, the deal couldn't go through. Vanessa needed me. The next evening, she approached me with honeyed charm. "Robert," she said softly, "Daniel and I want to expand the house value. A small investment. We just need your signature." I looked at her, the polished nails, the cold confidence. "My signature?" I repeated. "That's all you need to make this your dream home?" She nodded eagerly. I leaned back and smiled faintly. "Sure, I'll sign. But before I do, tell me, Vanessa, what do you see when you look at me?" She blinked. "What do you mean?" "Just answer." A pause. Then she smirked. "An old man holding on to something he can't keep." I smiled wider, stood up, and walked toward my room. "Good," I said quietly. "That's exactly what I wanted to hear. If someone insulted you in your own house, would you stay silent or strike back quietly? Comment below your thoughts." I closed the door behind me, and that night I called my lawyer. The next morning, Vanessa found an envelope on the kitchen table. Inside was a single note. "I've signed the papers, but not the ones you think." Her face went pale. The next morning felt like the calm before a storm. Vanessa was humming in the kitchen, dressed like she was posing for a magazine shoot. Her perfume filled the entire house. Sweet, artificial, suffocating. Daniel walked in, kissed her cheek, and smiled at me like a proud husband. "Dad finally agreed to sign," he said. "It means a lot to us." Vanessa turned, that fake gratitude painted all over her face. "It really does, Robert. You're making the right choice." I smiled. "I hope so, dear. I really hope so." She didn't notice the faint tremor in my voice wasn't fear. It was restraint. What I signed last night wasn't her mortgage document. It was a transfer of holdings form, moving ownership of the property into a trust under Ellen's name, with me as the sole executor. No sale, no refinance, no debt could touch this house without my approval. I had just locked the gates around my life's work, and Vanessa didn't even know it. That afternoon, I caught her on the phone, pacing near the window. Her voice was sharp. "Of course he signed. I told you he's easy to control. By next month, the place will be ours. Then we sell, pay off the loans, and move to Florida." Ours. Sell. Florida. Every word was a knife twisting deeper. I let her talk, pretending to dust the shelves nearby. When she hung up, she saw me standing there. "Oh," she laughed nervously. "You startled me." "I tend to do that when people speak too freely," I said, holding her gaze. She froze, just for a second, before regaining her smile. "You must have misheard, Robert." I nodded. "Of course. My hearing's not what it used to be." But that night, I wrote something in my journal. She thinks she's playing chess. She doesn't realize she's already in checkmate. Daniel was growing distant, too. Vanessa whispered poison into him slowly, convincing him that I was struggling mentally, that retirement was getting to me. He started looking at me like a burden instead of a father. That hurt more than anything she'd said. Still, I stayed quiet. Because revenge, I'd learned, works best in silence. Sometimes silence is the loudest revenge. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments below. Late that night, I slipped the real mortgage papers into the fireplace. As the flames consumed them, I felt something melt off my chest. Fear. I thought I was free. But the next morning, Daniel burst into my room holding a half-burned envelope. "Dad, what the hell is this? Why would you burn our mortgage papers?" I froze. Vanessa was behind him, arms folded, smirking. Daniel's voice trembled. "She's right, Dad. Maybe you're not okay to handle legal things anymore. Maybe we should talk about guardianship." guardianship over me. I sat quietly on the porch that evening, staring at the sunset through the same oak trees Ellen used to love. Guardianship. The word rang like a curse. I wasn't losing my mind. I was losing my son. Daniel stood inside, whispering fiercely with Vanessa. I could see their silhouettes through the window, her hands gesturing wildly, his slumped shoulders showing guilt. I knew I had to act, not with violence but with proof. This house wasn't just my home. It was my memory. When I built it, I installed hidden voice wires that ran through the living room to the basement. Old habit from my construction days. I used to test security systems for clients. Ellen laughed at the idea, but I kept them active, just in case. Now, those dusty wires became my lifeline. That night, I quietly reconnected them to a small recorder I found in my toolbox. Every conversation in the living room, dining area, and kitchen, I'd have it all. The next morning, I acted frail, confused, forgetful. I let Vanessa think her manipulation was working. She whispered to Daniel, "See? He forgot breakfast again. We'll have the lawyer file the competency claim next week. Once it's approved, we can sell without him." Every word went onto that tape. Later, when she went out for brunch with friends, I searched her office drawer. It was locked, but her vanity was her weakness. She hid the key in her jewelry box. Inside, I found documents, property sale drafts, power of attorney forms, and one more thing, a small notebook titled Exit Plan. I flipped it open. Dates, contacts, transaction amounts, and at the top, a note in her handwriting. Once Roberts declared unfit, sell house within 30 days. Keep Daniel calm until sale closes, then leave. I felt the room spin. She wasn't just taking the house, she was planning to abandon my son. That night I waited until they were asleep. I sat at the old kitchen, table, recorder on, notebook open beside it. Ellen's photo stared back at me from the wall. "I'm sorry, love," I whispered, "but I'm not done fighting. If someone tried to take everything from you, would you fight back or walk away? Tell me in the comments." When Daniel came down for water at midnight, I called softly, "Son, we need to talk." He looked groggy but worried. "Dad, it's late." I pressed play. Vanessa's voice filled the room. "Keep him calm until the sale closes, then leave." Daniel's face went pale. Before I could say another word, Vanessa appeared on the stairs, and in her hand was a kitchen knife. Vanessa stood halfway down the staircase, a knife glinting in her trembling hand. Her voice was calm, too calm. "So, this is how you repay my hospitality, Robert? By spying on your own family?" Daniel's face twisted with confusion. "Vanessa, put that down! What are you doing?" She didn't blink. "He's turning you against me, Daniel. He's jealous. He wants to ruin what we've built." "What you've built?" I said, standing slowly. "You mean debt, lies, and forged papers?" Vanessa's expression hardened. "You don't understand, Robert. This house, this life, was never meant for a man living in the past. Daniel and I deserve more than your dusty walls and fading memories." Her words hit me like a blow. Dusty walls, fading memories. That's what my life had become in her eyes. "Daniel," I said quietly, "play the next recording." He hesitated, hands shaking, but pressed the button. Vanessa's own voice spilled out, cold and calculating. "Once he's out of the picture, we can sell everything. Daniel won't even realize it's gone until it's too late." Daniel's face turned white. You said that? Don't believe him!" she screamed, lunging forward. I stepped back, steady, refusing to flinch. Her knife hand trembled but didn't rise. Daniel grabbed her wrist mid-air, the blade clattering to the floor. For a second, Silence filled the room, the kind that only comes after something breaks. "Dad," Daniel said, his voice raw. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because you wouldn't have believed me," I said, my voice shaking with exhaustion. "You already chose her over me." He looked down, shame burning in his eyes. Vanessa's face softened suddenly. She began to cry, not real tears, but the kind she knew could still manipulate Daniel's heart. "Daniel, baby, I just wanted us to be happy. Your father hates me. I panicked, okay?" He hesitated, and that hesitation was all she did. She pulled free, grabbed her purse, and ran out into the rain. The door slammed. For the first time in years, I saw my son cry. "What did I do, Dad?" he whispered. I didn't answer. I just watched the rain through the window and said, "You'll see who she really is soon enough." If your own child chose their partner over you, would you forgive them or make them see the truth another way? Comment your thoughts below. Later that night, Daniel left to find her. I sat alone, the clock ticking like a heartbeat. The recorder still lay on the table, blinking red. When the front door finally opened hours later, Daniel wasn't alone. 2 police officers followed him in. One of them looked at me and said, "Mr. Hayes, you're under investigation for threatening behavior and property fraud." Vanessa had made her next move. The cold steel of the handcuffs bit into my wrists. The police didn't arrest me. Not yet. But they questioned me like I was already guilty. "Sir," one officer said, "your daughter-in-law claims you've been tampering with property documents and threatening her safety." I sat still. "And where's her proof?" He held up a flash drive. "She gave us recordings." Recordings, my own recordings, edited, twisted, spliced into something unrecognizable. Vanessa had beaten me to my own game. They left after a few hours with no charges filed yet, but Daniel couldn't look me in the eyes. "Dad," he said quietly, "just tell me the truth. Did you really threaten her?" I laughed bitterly. "No, son, but it's funny. When a liar tells enough lies, people start mistaking the truth for cruelty." He didn't respond. That night, I walked through the empty house. The walls whispering memories, the silence pressing heavy on my chest. Every photo, every nail, every wooden beam had a story. And now that story was being rewritten by someone who'd never lifted a single hammer. But I wasn't done. The next morning I called my lawyer, Harvey Dole, a friend I trusted from my construction days. "Harvey," I said, "remember that trust I set up under Ellen's name?" "Of course," he replied. "You want to activate the emergency clause?" "Yes," I said. "Transfer all property rights into a private estate fund, effective immediately." He paused. "That'll freeze every asset tied to your name, even your son's." "I know," I whispered. "It's the only way to save him. From her." Later, Daniel confronted me again, anger rising in his eyes. "She said you're doing this out of spite, that you'll ruin both of us just to get revenge." I looked him in the eye and said, "I'm doing this because love makes people blind, and sometimes pain is the only cure." He didn't understand. Not yet. Have you ever had to hurt someone to protect them? Tell me what you would have done if you were in Robert's place. That evening, I saw Vanessa's car parked outside, headlights off, watching, waiting. She knew she'd lost the house, but she hadn't lost the war. I opened the curtain slightly. For a second, our eyes met through the rain-smeared glass. She smiled, a small, chilling smile that promised this wasn't over. The next morning, Daniel was gone, and so were Vanessa and the house keys. The house felt empty when I woke. Too quiet, too still. No footsteps, no voices, no coffee brewing. I walked through each room like a ghost wandering his own grave. The dining chairs were missing, the silverware gone. Even Ellen's framed wedding photo had been taken from the mantel. On the kitchen table sat a single set of house keys, my own, and a note in Vanessa's handwriting. "You said it yourself, Robert. The house isn't yours anymore, so we're moving on. Don't worry. We'll send you our new address once the paperwork clears." My heart pounded. She'd taken Daniel with her. I called his number again and again, but it went straight to voicemail. My son, my only family, was gone. I walked into his room. Empty. Drawers pulled open, closet half bare. But on the desk lay something she'd missed, an envelope addressed to me in Daniel's handwriting. "Dad, I don't know what's true anymore. Vanessa says you forged documents and tried to trap us. I'm going with her for now. Please, don't do anything stupid. I'll call you once we're safe. Safe." That word made me laugh bitterly. Vanessa didn't know the meaning of it. I sat on the edge of the bed, the old floor creaking beneath me. My mind replayed every insult, every manipulation, every false smile she'd given me. I had been patient long enough. I drove into town and stopped at a small cafe near the courthouse. That's where Harvey, my lawyer, met me. He handed me a brown folder. "It's done," he said. "The trust is sealed. The property and its assets are frozen under Ellen's clause. Even if they try to sell, it won't go through." I nodded. "Good. I don't care about the money. I just want her exposed." Harvey leaned forward. "Then you'll want to see this." He slid me a printed email thread. Vanessa had contacted a real estate broker using a fake name, Sarah Nolan. She'd already listed the house online as vacant prop. Quick sale opportunity." "She was going to flip it," Harvey said grimly. "The woman's a professional scammer." It hit me all at once. Daniel wasn't the first man she'd done this to. I stared at the photo of my house on the fake listing, the caption reading, "Classic family home, motivated seller." Motivated seller. I almost smiled. If someone tried to sell the home you built with your own hands, what would you do? Stay silent or strike back? Comment your answer below. I knew what I had to do. I went home, poured myself a glass of whiskey, and stared at Ellen's faded picture still hanging in my study. "You were right," I whispered. "Greed doesn't destroy people. It reveals them." Before bed, I opened my laptop and typed a short email. To Daniel Hayes. Subject: "You left something behind. Come home. There's something you need to hear, and it's not about the house." At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A single message from an unknown number. "You want to play games, old man? Let's see how you handle losing everything else." Vanessa wasn't finished. The next morning, I returned to the empty house, my heart pounding with the weight of what was coming. Every corner felt haunted, not by ghosts, but by lies. I went to the basement and opened the old electrical panel where my recording wires ended. I'd used them before to capture Vanessa's deceit, but this time, I had a different plan. I connected the recorder to my laptop and started scrolling through the old audio logs. Hundreds of hours of background noise, conversations, muffled arguments. I filtered for Vanessa's voice. One file stood out, time-stamped a week ago, before everything exploded. Her voice came through the speakers, soft but sharp. "He's too careful, Daniel. We'll have to make it look like he forged those papers. Once he's declared incompetent, we'll say he transferred the deed illegally. It'll be our word against his." And then Daniel's voice, quiet, hesitant. "What if he finds out?" "Then we finish what we started," she replied coldly. "People will believe the younger ones, not some lonely old man." I stopped the playback. My chest tightened. But I wasn't angry anymore. I was calm, focused. If Vanessa wanted war, I'd give her one she'd never forget. I transferred every recording, every document, every photograph to a single encrypted file. Then I uploaded it to a shared drive, one that would automatically send copies to local news outlets and police if I didn't deactivate it within 48 hours. Insurance. I wasn't going to kill her. I wasn't even going to confront her directly. I was going to let her own words destroy her. Would you expose someone publicly if it meant hurting the person you love? What would you choose, revenge or forgiveness? Let me know in the comments. That evening, I got another text, this time from Daniel. Dad, I'm sorry. I think I made a mistake. Can we talk? Relief washed over me, but it didn't last. Seconds late, another message appeared. Same number, same tone. Actually, forget it. We're done. Don't contact us again. 2 messages, seconds apart. One pleading, one cruel. Only one of them was real. I opened the audio files again, scanning for background sounds. Cars, footsteps, echoes. My gut twisted as I realized. The cruel message wasn't from Daniel. It was Vanessa, using his phone. I sat back, gripping the table edge. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from anticipation. Because now, I had everything I needed. Just as I clicked send on the evidence upload, headlights flashed outside, Vanessa's car pulling into the driveway. And this time, she wasn't alone. The sound of tires on gravel made my pulse quicken. I looked out the window. Vanessa's black SUV sat gleaming under the porch light. 2 doors opened. Daniel stepped out first, head bowed, rain soaking his jacket. Vanessa followed, umbrella in hand, her smile cold as frost. Robert, she said sweetly, we just came to talk. Daniel wants to fix things. Daniel's eyes darted away. Dad, I shouldn't have left like that. I studied their faces, hers too calm, his too lost. Come in, I said, my voice steady. Let's end this tonight. We sat at the old dining table. I noticed her eyes scanning the room, the bare shelves, the missing photos, the untouched bottle of whiskey. She was calculating again, searching for advantage. Robert, she began, we can move past all this. Just sign the release form for the trust and we'll make sure you're comfortable. No more fighting. I leaned back in my chair. Comfortable? Like the maid you called me? Her lips pressed together. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. The silence that followed was suffocating. Rain lashed the windows like angry hands. Then I smiled faintly. Before I sign anything, let's have a drink. For old times. She hesitated but agreed. I poured 2 glasses, mine and hers, from the bottle on the table. Daniel's hand shook as he lifted his. Dad, can we stop this? Please? I looked at him, my son, my blood. And for a fleeting second, the anger cracked, revealing something deeper. Sadness. Loss. I'm sorry you had to learn this way, I whispered. He frowned. Learn what? That's when Vanessa noticed the blinking red light near the wall socket. What is that? She asked sharply. I smiled. Oh, that? Just the house listening, like it always has. Her eyes widened. You're recording again? Not just recording, I said, leaning forward. Streaming. Her face went pale. Every word since they entered the house had been live uploaded to the private drive, the same one tied to my insurance system. Every lie, every manipulation, every confession. Daniel's expression twisted as realization dawned. Dad, you planned this? I built this house to protect my family, I said quietly. Now it's finally doing its job. Vanessa stood abruptly. "You're insane," she hissed. "You think anyone will believe an old man over me? You think this changes anything?" I looked her dead in the eye. "It changes everything. If you caught someone lying in your home, would you expose them publicly or forgive them quietly? Tell me what you'd do in the comments." She turned to Daniel, panicked. "Don't you see? He's framing me again." Daniel's voice was cold now. "Then why did you text me from my own phone?" Her jaw dropped. The clock ticked once, twice, before she lunged for the laptop. I stepped in front of her. For a moment her hand trembled near the bottle. I saw it before she did, the one I'd poured for her. She froze, realization flickering too late. "I didn't poison you," I said softly, "but I wanted you to wonder if I did." Her breath caught. Daniel's voice shook. "Dad, stop. This isn't justice. This is vengeance." "Sometimes they're the same thing," I whispered. The front door burst open. Police lights flooded the room, flashing blue and red. Someone had already called them. And it wasn't me. "Mr. Hayes, step away from the table," the officer shouted. I raised my hands slowly. "You might want to start with her," I said. Vanessa tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "He's lying. He threatened us." "Ma'am," the second officer interrupted, holding a tablet. "We have an automatic upload of a live recording sent from this address 5 minutes ago. It includes your admission to property fraud, coercion, and intent to falsify documents." Her face drained of color. "What?" The officer turned to me. "Who set up this system?" "I did," I replied quietly. 30 years ago, when I built this home, I just never thought I'd use it against family." Vanessa screamed as they cuffed her. "You think you've won, old man? He'll hate you for this." Maybe she was right. Daniel stood frozen in the doorway, eyes red. He didn't look at her. Or me. When the police car drove off, the night fell silent again. He finally spoke. "Dad, you ruined her." I met his gaze. "No, son. She ruined herself." He shook his head. "You set her up." I took a deep breath. I gave her a choice. Tell the truth, or keep lying. She chose the lie. He turned to leave. "Maybe that's the difference between us. You always had to win." The words cut deep, but I didn't stop him. I watched him drive away into the rain, just like his mother's hearse years ago, disappearing into the dark. The house was quiet again, empty, but mine. I walked to Ellen's photo on the mantel and set the keys beside it. "It's over," I whispered, "but it doesn't feel like it." The phone buzzed, a message from Harvey. "News spreading fast. Police confirm fraud ring tied to Vanessa Carter in 3 states. You did it, Robert." I put the phone down. For some reason, victory tasted like dust. When justice costs you the person you love, is it still worth it? Tell me your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe if you're following this story so far. I poured one last drink, lifted the glass toward the silent walls. "To the house that heard everything," I said. Lightning flashed, and for a moment I saw my reflection in the window. Older, harder, alone. I'd won. But revenge doesn't end with victory. It ends with silence. Outside, the storm eased. Inside, the house creaked softly, settling into peace. Then, from the porch, came a faint knock. I opened the door. Daniel stood there, soaked and trembling. He said only one thing. "Dad, can I come home?" I stepped aside without a word. Some houses aren't built with bricks. They're built with forgiveness. And sometimes, that's the hardest foundation of all.